This is not going to be a long video, but I hope you understand my point, and hopefully I can get to it quick. The sportscaster jinx. There's no such thing. Actually, there is one way that a human being could have an effect on a professional sporting game based on their words. There's only one way that I think that's even possible, but it requires a very specific sequence of events. I'll get to that a little bit later on. Outside of that one instance, there is nothing that a sportscaster or a broadcaster could say during a game that would actually change its outcome. And you know all the things I'm talking about. You're not supposed to mention when a pitcher has a no-hitter, or maybe a team has a certain winning streak, or a certain goalie hasn't allowed a puck or a soccer ball behind them in X amount of time. There's just certain things you realize are not supposed to be said based on superstition. But come on, that's not a thing. You know that's not a thing. You're just buying into the superstition. You're buying into enough people who think that it goes against luck. I'm trying to figure out the origin of all this. When did all of this start? And clearly it was from a world without social media. For decades, people would watch games, baseball, basketball, hockey, football, on television, and they'd watch it where the only voice of the game were the play-by-play and the analyst as announcers, and that's it. There was no conversation taking place on social media. There were no people doing live streams. There wasn't maybe sports radio, to go along with the conversation. There were just a small amount of voices, and that's it. And if they said something, maybe some viewers thought that was powerful enough to have a specific effect on an individual or a game or an outcome. But I mean, here we are in 2021, everybody is talking about a game, and you're not doing it justice if you're not calling attention to, a pitching performance that has no walks or no hits allowed, or a certain batter who's gotten hits in X amount of games in a row, or whatever the stat may be. It's just crazy to think that you would not provide that information, you would not help sell that part of an amazing story because you feel like you don't want to be the one responsible for saying it and then it changing because you just said it. So that brings me to the one specific instance where I do think a broadcaster could have an effect on jinxing things. And that would be, this is the only way. If you were to actually say something that the athlete would hear, like to them, or if you knew they were watching the broadcast somehow during a game and you planted a seed in their head, like I said, with a question, hey, so-and-so, you haven't allowed a hit in your first 5 innings. How's the game going? Now you're affecting the game, but nobody's really going to cross that line and do that. Nobody's really going to ask that question. That's the only way I think that words could have a jinxing effect on a situation. So long as the athlete is on the field and does not consume the programming that you're creating right now, they're not scrolling on Twitter to see what you're saying, how do you think that could have any effect on them as humans or the game as something that's out of everybody's control? I just don't. So let's end this video by simultaneously ending the conversation of the sportscaster jinx. I know you're realizing that timing is coincidence and somebody just said something and all of a sudden it changed. Those two things are completely unrelated. Unless you are one-on-one, unless your voice is getting to the people that have their hands on the game, then your voice has not necessarily any impact on the outcomes or results.